So let's talk about one of the most famous and, let's be honest, most mysterious weapons ever built, the MOAB. You've definitely heard the name, but trust me, the real story behind it is way more complicated than you probably think.
And this is it. This is the moment. A thermal image capturing the first and so far only time the largest conventional bomb in the U.S. arsenal was ever used in a fight. Just one single gigantic explosion that, believe me, sent shockwaves all around the world.
And that really brings us to the main question we're tackling here. What in the world is this weapon really, and why, in its entire history, has it only been fired in anger just that one time?
To even begin to answer that, we have to start with the day it happened. The one and only time the MOAB was actually used.
Okay, so the date was April 13th, 2017. The target was this complex network of caves and tunnels that ISIS cave fighters were using deep in a really remote mountainous part of Afghanistan. A specially designed MC-130 plane came in, flying low, and literally just pushed this massive weapon out of its back cargo door.
And what happened right after that blast? Well, it was a total mess, a classic case of the fog of war. The Afghan army came out saying they killed 94 militants, but then a local parliamentarian claimed a civilian teacher and his son were killed, and then you had ISIS who flat out denied any casualties at all. The real human cost? We still don't know for sure.
All right, let's get into it. What exactly is the bomb that caused all of this chaos?
And here she is, just sitting there, completely inert, at an Air Force museum down in Florida. You know, it almost looks kind of harmless. But this is the GBU-43B. And its story is, well, it's anything but.
So it's official. Kind of boring military name is GBU-43/B, which stands for Massive Ordnance Air Blast. But that's not the name any of us actually know it by, is it?
See, the name Mother of All Bombs wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It was a very deliberate psychological jab at Saddam Hussein's big boast before the 1991 Gulf War, when he said his forces were going to wage the mother of all battles.
So, how big are we talking? Let's just run through the numbers. First up, the weight. It's nearly 22,000 pounds.
It's 30 feet long. That's about the length of a city bus. It's so huge you can't drop it from a normal bomb bay. You literally have to shove it out the back of a cargo plane.
And here it is, the number that really matters. Its blast is the equivalent of 11 tons of TNT. That is a truly staggering amount of conventional explosive power.
But here's a really common misconception I want to clear up. This thing is not a bunker buster. The MOAB is an airburst weapon. That means it's designed to go off just before it hits the ground. This creates a massive, crushing pressure wave, perfect for wiping out targets over a huge area, or, like in Afghanistan, channeling all that force down into a confined space like a cave system.
So where on earth did this thing come from? It wasn't the result of some long, drawn-out development program. No, this weapon was born out of a very specific and very urgent need.
Its family tree really starts back in the Vietnam War with a bomb called the BLU-82 or the Daisy Cutter. They used it to instantly vaporize a clearing in the jungle for a helicopter to land. Well, the sheer psychological terror that the Daisy Cutter caused in Afghanistan in 2001 directly led to the idea, hey, what if we made an even bigger one? And that's how the MOAB was born.
It was built in a massive hurry, what they call a crash project, specifically for the shock and awe campaign at the very beginning of the Iraq invasion in 2003. The whole idea was to have this incredibly intimidating weapon to terrify the enemy. But here's the crazy part, right? It was designed for that war, but it never actually got used there.
This picture, it really captures that whole crash project vibe. You're looking at the guy who created it, Al Weimorts, standing next to a raw, unpainted prototype. This wasn't some polished corporate product. This was a weapon built in-house, on the fly, for one reason.
So we have to ask the big question. Is the MOAB actually the most powerful non-nuclear bomb ever made? Well, the answer, it's a little complicated.
For instance, let's look at the British Grand Slam bomb from World War II. Technically, it was heavier overall, but, and this is the important part, it's all about what that weight is made of. The Grand Slam was mostly a super thick steel casing, designed to smash deep into the ground. The MOAB, on the other hand, is almost all business, over 18,000 pounds of pure explosive payload.
And this chart, this really puts it all into perspective. Russia claims they have a father of all bombs, or FOAB, with like 4 times the power, though nobody's really been able to confirm that. But look at that last line.
That's the one that gets me. A single, typical B-52 bombing run in Vietnam could deliver the explosive equivalent of more than a dozen MOABs. Just let that sink in.
And here's the last piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it's a bit unsettling. The MOAB's 11-ton blast is actually in the same ballpark as the smallest tactical nuclear weapons ever made. Like that old Cold War relic, the Davy Crockett. So yeah, this thing lives in a very blurry, very strange space right at the edge of conventional war.
Which brings us to this final thought. We have a weapon that was built for shock and awe, a weapon with power that starts to creep up to the nuclear level, and in over 20 years, it's been used exactly once. What does that tell us? What does its very existence and how rarely it's used say about the kind of impossible decisions that go into modern warfare?